Hello. Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me what I'm saying? Hello.
There's a lot of lag कर रहा है sir बहुत.
Lag. Okay. It might be because we have a thunderstorm here, but my internet connection seems okay. Just run a speed test. Just 1 second. Give me a sec. I'm getting a high speed internet here. So I think the lag is not from my side. Hello. Yeah, am I audible? Everyone? Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for confirming. All right. Okay. So I think we're good to go. I'm ready when you are. I think I'm not able to hear you all very clearly. I can hear you, but I cannot make out the words that you're saying. Let me just try without the headphones. Can you hear me now? Am I audible? Can you hear me? Um, am I audible?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah,
Sure.
loud and clear. Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Uh, so we are live, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. A very good evening to all of you. IEEE MAIT welcomes you to this webinar. This webinar would be extremely informative for all the GRE aspirants aiming to study abroad. Please welcome our guest speaker for the evening, Mr. Pitamber Kaushik. Mr. Kaushik is a verbal ability and verbal reasoning trainer specializing in vocabulary refinement. He has bagged top scores across multiple competitive examinations. He scored a 336 out of 340 on the GRE exam with 169 out of 170 in the verbal ability section, placing him amongst the top 1% of the test takers. He has also scored a fabulous 99.96 percentile in the CAT verbal ability section. Apart from cracking multiple examinations, he is a content creator and a very proficient writer. His writings have appeared in over 100 publications spanning across 45 different countries. On this note, let us begin let us begin with the webinar. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pratik. Thank you for the kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pitamber Kaushik. I have already been introduced to you, so I'm here to help you and assist you with any sort of advice or mentoring that you need for your study abroad plans or in general your higher studies plans, especially as relates to verbal ability, but everything in general. Um, just a few minutes of general advice, and then I'll begin taking your questions. So, one of the first things that we need to understand, and that is a very, very common problem with Indian aspirants and Indian test takers regarding any of the aptitude tests or international aptitude tests, or at least the tests in the first world countries, is that the pattern of examination in India that is very knowledge focused. It values knowledge typically more than your aptitude or your analytical ability. The CAT is an exception in this regard, certainly an outlier because the focus of the CAT is to test your managerial skills directly or indirectly, including how you manage your time within the exam itself. And besides that, the focus is on comprehension. So CAT is a good standard of what the modern educational philosophy is. But when you compare it to other exams, there's a lot of focus on knowledge of facts, and if there's not a focus on knowledge of facts, there is a focus on knowledge of techniques and methods instead of concepts. When we talk of the GRE or GMAT or even the TOEFL and IELTS, the focus is on testing your comprehension, not your knowledge. So that's why you don't get any questions asking you theoretical principles like grammar rules or terminologies or labels, right? You don't get any questions like, is this a noun or is this a pronoun? What part of speech is this, right? Which literary device is being used? So, as regards the GRE, the focus is on testing your comprehension. Even when GRE has something that is clearly testing your knowledge, which is vocabulary, right? Obviously, if you don't know the word or if you don't understand the word, you cannot answer it, right? So, with vocabulary, you might take exception to my statement that where is the comprehension part with vocabulary? It's all memory based. It's all based on factual learning and memorization, right? It's all a matter of know it or not. Right. Now, there are certain points that need to be made regarding that. GRE doesn't ask you vocabulary directly, right? It doesn't ask you what is the meaning of this word or like find the best synonym of this word or so. Right. It gives you some context. And the most important terminology here is context. All questions in exams like GRE or GMAT have context. And context is very important when we are learning meanings of words. So the problem that is there in the very foundation of the Indian education system is that word meanings are simply things that are memorized or dumbed down. What happens is we are viewing words in isolation. So it's I'll give you something of that is a more of a relatable example. So let's take the word dismay for example, right? So dismay is a word that can be taught to you as a synonym of surprise. If you open a book of thesaurus or if you look up the thesaurus section of, I guess I'm hearing traffic noises. Yeah. Okay. So if you open the thesaurus section of any website or a dictionary, you might see dismay listed with surprise. But there is something to understand that, okay, yeah, dismay is something that is a negative form of surprise. Or let's take the word slender and let's take the word emaciated. Both can be used to describe a thin person, right? But you can never give a compliment with you are looking emaciated. So these fine distinctions, the elements of collocation and connotation, are not so obvious when you are missing context. So if you simply memorize words as view them as antonyms and synonyms, you will not be understanding the finer shades of meaning, right? That need to be resolved when learning words. So simply by looking at long lists of words, right? It's not suitable to it's not conducive to either memory or understanding. Even if you memorize or just dumb down those words in a few minutes or in a few hours, right, depending on your memorization ability, retention is something that will be very difficult to achieve unless you are naturally gifted at that. That's why GRE questions do have a lot of, at least somewhat, a bit of context, right? So you'll have vocabulary in terms of fill in the blanks questions, not what is the meaning of this word or which is a synonym. So even with vocabulary, you have the surrounding words, you have the sentence, you have the words in the vicinity, in the neighborhood of the blanks to discern what could be a word that could be used there, right? And as for the tools that I use myself, right? So in my teaching, I do use tools like etymology, that is finding out the origin of a word, both as a tool for readily memorizing things, as a tool for deducing the meaning of words. So, although it might seem counterintuitive, right? There are 2 points that need to be made here, right? The first, both of them are counterintuitive, in fact. So, and the first point is with vocabulary, often learning more is easier, learning less is difficult, right? It seems very contrary to popular reason, right? Obviously, if I have to memorize a larger piece of information, that is likely to be difficult, and if I have to memorize a smaller piece of information, that is likely to be easier. But I'm saying the opposite. I'm telling you that it is easier to memorize a lot, and it is more difficult to memorize small bits, right? What I mean by this is it is easier to memorize a lot of information if that information is very well connected, right? And it is difficult to memorize a collection of loose random things, and that is where the traditional methods of learning vocabulary fall flat. So if you're using flashcards, although I feel flashcards are good, I'm not saying any method is bad. I'm just telling you the inadequacies of each method. So if you're using a simply a list of words like the way you were dictated in elementary school, everyone was, even I was dictated in elementary school, like 10 words for dictation or 20 new words for dictation or word of the day and all this. So the thing with all these compilations and these lists, they do have their upsides, certainly. I'm not denying that. But the problem with these listicles or these assortments or daily dose of vocabulary is that these words are not related to each other in any meaningful way. So one way you're learning a word which has come from medical parlance, and another word which is sort of has its roots in maybe contemporary culture, one word from music, another word from biology, right? There is no as such relation between the words, and even if there is a relation, it might not be so obvious to you, right? So I'm not only talking of relations in fields. Sometimes two words across fields, two very different words, do share something in common, maybe a root, maybe a prefix, maybe a suffix. But unless you start analyzing words through the prefix, root, and suffix mechanism structure, these things will not help you a lot, right? And again, the prefix, root, and suffix analysis is not something that you can indiscriminately apply everywhere, right? You need to know that, okay, this is the difference and these are the pitfalls that can happen, right? Common, very basic linguistic pitfalls that can happen when I try to be reckless with a method. The thing with verbal ability is, as much as you try, there is no way to make it an exact science. For it is not an exact science. It's not a science, let alone be an exact science. So don't like abandon that viewpoint that verbal ability somehow someday you're going to stumble across a method which is going to make verbal ability very algorithmic or very ordered or very mathematical, very analytical. That's not going to happen. But yes, you can definitely reduce the amount of disorder in it. Personally, for you, you're not going to change the subject, but yes, you can order your memorization, you can systematize the way you study it, so that the study of verbal ability also, or the practice of verbal ability also, becomes something um, close to how systematic the study of quants is, right? That can be done, certainly. And since this is a singular workshop, I'm not going to go in depth in the common techniques that are my own personal techniques that I use for doing them. But yeah, definitely I'll share you. I'll skim over some examples, so to speak. Okay. Now, so why am I talking about vocabulary so much? Is because GRE, as when we talk of verbal ability, there is the RC section, reading comprehension, and reading comprehension is too vast to give you any insights. I can certainly give you some tips on reading, right? But there is not a lot that not a lot of pinpoint specific advice that I can give you, right? But with vocabulary, there are some things that I want to quickly go over and tell you what you can do, right? And let me know if you can follow. Let me know if you want me to speak slow or fast. Like, just let me know. Don't hesitate. Okay. Yeah. If you have any questions, you can interrupt me and ask. It's completely fine. Okay. So with respect to vocabulary, what I have found, right, in my own experience and in my experience with students, will they be able to join PhD program without any research paper? PhD program? No, definitely not. No. You can definitely join a master's program without a research paper, and a research paper is like a bonus for a master's program. It's not a necessity. But a PhD program, it is going to be very difficult. But yes, like I'll not say you will never be able to join any without a research paper, but it will be very difficult. So difficult that get a research paper, like even like just get one, right? Work on it, find a topic, work on it with your heart, and get a research publication, get a study published. If you feel a study is too difficult, get at least 2 review papers published, right? Write to proper academic reviews, and if you do that, you'll find it easier to work in the PhD program itself, right? So it's not like something you're doing to just tick off a checkbox, right? It will help you survive in the PhD environment, right? Especially in these times, both mentally and academically, right? So if you have experience with research, certainly try to go for a review paper or a review letter at least, or a commentary, right? A comment paper. If you feel that a research paper is too tedious for you right now, but yes, a PhD program is like we are talking of something that is there for research. Even with masters, you can say that it's there for study, and the research component is secondary to study. But with PhD, the research component is all that there is, right? So it will be very difficult. Certainly, there will be institutes that will take you even without any research publications. But I suggest that it's not a toil worth undertaking. Right? It's easier to get a research paper down there rather than look for an institute which will take you, right? But yeah, if you have a very compelling SOP and other aspects, and GRE or GMAT, whatever you're going for, then that is possible. Very compelling GRE score with a very compelling SOP, LOR, and scores like academic scores, past academic scores, you might get into a decent institute without a research paper. Yes, so it's not impossible, of course. Okay. Yeah. So continuing on where I was with GRE vocabulary. So see, like suppose you're learning a list of 10 words which don't have anything to do with each other, right? So since these words are not connected, they are going to evaporate in your mind, right? They're going to evaporate in your head. Just like the same amount of water, if you leave it out in 100 cups, all of the 100 cups will be empty, or all of them will be evaporated. But if you like pour those 100 cups in a single
सर
barrel,
ने खुद ही वो
right?
कर दिया, खुद ही वापस कंटिन्यू कर दिया, तो बोलूं या रहने दूं?
Sorry, pardon me. Who is this? Could you pardon me? I could not hear you.
I'm so sorry, sir. I left my mic on. Please continue.
No problem. No problem. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, just the way if you leave 100 teacups, right, the same amount of water distributed among 100 teacups in the open, right, all of them will evaporate and you'll have no water left. But if those 100 teacups are combined in a single barrel, the same volume of water will survive the evaporation, right? Surface area, right? So similarly, if you learn 100 words which are totally random, like you pick up a dictionary and just take up one word from each page and try to memorize it, maybe you feel you'll remember it today, you are very confident, but maybe after a week it'll just go away, right? Usage is very important. Unless you're using those words will not stay, right? And don't go for instant gratification, go for delayed gratification. Make an investment. If you can learn only 10, you can only learn one word a day, but remember it for an year. Like if you remember it for an year, it is going to stay for a lifetime. That's a threshold. It is better to learn one word a day and have it stay with you forever, rather than learn 10 words a day or 100 words a day, a certainly impractical goal, and have them all vanish away in a week, right? So rather than learning, mugging up 100 words a day and having all of them vanish from your head, right, in mere days or weeks, it's better to just learn a word which at least sticks with you, right? That is one thing. Next, uh, this is not something that I'm saying from just my own experience. It is something that is backed by psychological research, right? All do mind that if you learn the story behind a word, like the origin behind a word, how a word came to be, right, that word is going to stay with you likely forever. Because, and you, this might seem very counterintuitive, because why will I waste 1 hour in learning the history of one single word, in which time I could just learn the approximate rough meaning of 100 words, right? But the thing is, if you invest 1 hour in learning 100 words, they are not going to stay with you. They're not related to each other in any way, right? But if you learn the history of one word, you get to know a root, right? Okay, this is the root that it comes from. And then with that root, you can find 100 different words. For example, very simple example is whenever some word ending in logy is quoted, maybe you don't know what it means, but you at least know that it is a branch of study. If I tell you entomology, right, you might not know what entomo means, but you know what logy means. It must be a study of something, or ichthyology or ornithology, right? So this is because you have gathered that logy is something that always comes with subjects or disciplines, so to speak, right? Biology, zoology, geology, these are things that you might be familiar with. But oncology, ichthyology, you might not be familiar with herpetology or phytology, right? So that is a very important thing. So whenever you're learning words, make sure that you learn. If you're learning 100 words, all those 100 words should be related. So maybe one day you sit and learn all the phobias, another day you sit and learn all the logies, right? Maybe when you are learning of the phobias, you come across arachnophobia, right? So you learn that okay, arachno means spider, arachnids, and then when you're learning arachnology, you don't need to learn it because you have already encountered the half arachno in arachnophobia. So this method actually will very soon start to accelerate because you'll gain new prefixes and new suffixes, and these prefixes and suffixes will stay with you. These roots will stay with you. So over time, this approach will magnify itself, right? So what I suggest you is, instead of randomly learning too many words, learn some words, analyze them well, right? Spend time analyzing a word. Don't care that okay, I have to learn these 10,000 words for GRE and I've only learned 100 of them. Don't worry about that. Maybe if you learn those 100 words, you will discover 100 roots there, and each root typically carries 10 more words. So actually, when you're learning 100 words and understanding their roots, you're indirectly learning 1,000 words. And do not forget that just because you don't know what a word means, you cannot find out its meaning, right? Although English cannot be solved as such like maths, right? But if you know what a root means, you could always crack it, so to speak, crack it. And even in an exam, this has happened with me as well. I did not know what words mean, right? For example, when I was in class 7, in a certain biology exam, right, I did an Olympiad, I think it was some Olympiad. I encountered a word called emasculation, and I had no idea what it means because it was not part of our syllabus, at least in CBSE. But it had something to do with flowers, and there were four options. But I did know that words that start with E. E has something to do with going away, right? And mascu, I could obviously connect that masculation is shun is a process, and mascule has to do with men or male as such, masculinity. So there was one of the options which said that it is what it is, and there are four options, MCQ, right? So one of the options was removing the anther, I think anther, right? Anther of flowers, right? I knew that the anther was the male part, right? So I knew that okay, removing the male reproductive part of a flower is called emasculation. So I did not know what emasculation means. It was not a part of my syllabus, but I saw the question, and instead of seeing it as a biology question, I saw it as an English question, right? And I got it correct, obviously. So now that is the thing, right? So even words that you do not know, if you encounter them in the exam, you have a fighting chance if you can break them down and analyze them etymologically, right? So looking at the structure of words, that is the prefix, roots, and suffixes format, that not only helps you to memorize words better, remember words better, but also after your preparation is done, when you're in the exam hall and you're all alone, there's no dictionary with you, you can even try to crack or solve words using deduction that you do not know, but you can at least approximate or estimate their meaning, right? So this is a two-pronged tool that is not only going to help your preparation but also help you solve words, right? Uh, that is a that is a definite win, in my opinion. Okay. I'll give you an example. So can the audience members respond here? Is it one way or two way? Can I hear audio from the audience members? um, am I audible? Um,
Excuse me, sir. It's one way from the audience can't respond.
I'm not able to hear anything. I don't know.
Sir, you are audible to everyone, but they can't respond. They can only put questions in the chat.
Hello, am I audible? Can you hear me? Yeah. I wanted to ask. Okay. So you can like comment here, right? Okay. Great. So here's a question for you. So there is a word that I wanted to look at. Okay. I'll just interact with you there with through chat then, right, with your comments. So there's a word called solivagant, right? And chances are most of you, right? Most of you, like there may be people who know what it means. Definitely, I'm not saying by any means this is a word that is very rare. It's a fairly common word, right? But solivagant, right? There's a word called solivagant. So can anyone tell me what it means? Like not from knowledge, but those who do not know. I'm only asking it to people who do not know. The word solivagant. Can you guess what it means? Can you guess? I'm not asking if you already know it. If you already know it, you know it. But if you don't know it, suppose you get this word in your exam, solivagant, solivagant. So what would you do then? If you get this word, is there any way that you can break it into two parts and try to figure out its meaning? Any guesses? Anyone? Like try to break it into parts. For now, I can help you. It breaks into two parts for now, or maybe three as you look at it. Tell me. Anybody in the audience? Anyone who wants to take a guess? Take a shot. Don't worry if you get it wrong. Solivagant is the word, right? This is a good word that we have. And suppose this is a word that you get in a GRE, like there is a sentence, and you get some idea of what it is saying, but you do not get the entire, you do not get the accurate meaning. So if you encounter this word and you do not already know what it means, can you on spot in the exam try to approximate the meaning of this word? Any guesses? Try to split it into two parts or three parts as you see fit, right? Let me help you. Let me assist you with this. So there's a hint for you. Try to break it around soli and vagant, right? And can you think of a word? Let's take the first part, soli. Can you think of a word that is similar to soli or like this root? You know, vowels at the end, especially, they can be changed. So do not worry too much about finding an exact match. Can you tell me a word that is similar to soli in spelling or in pronunciation anyway, right? Phonetic or graphical resemblance. Soli and vagant. Let me break it down into two parts. Soli and vagant. Try to guess the meaning of the word of the root soli or anything like that. Tell me. Have you heard words like soliloquy, or solo, or soul, as in soul survivor, or soul heir to the throne? So, do you know what soul or solo means? Anybody? Tell me. Soul or solo? Anything? Anything that you think? What does solo or soul mean? If anyone can comment the meaning, or like there's a chat here, right? So if you can comment it here. Yeah. Yes, that's quite correct. Okay, I was not able to see your comments. Okay, now I can see them. All right. I'm not very familiar with this interface. Yeah, thank you. Solo means single, right? And vagant. So vagant, you must have heard, you must have even read a poem, right, related to a word that is similar to vagant, right? A poem. If you, those of you who are from CBSC would have read a poem that comes from a word which is very close to vagant, right? Okay, what are the words that you can think similar to vagant? Maybe vagrant, maybe vagrancy, vagabond. Anyone? What does vagabond mean? What does a vagabond do? Vagrant, vagaries, right? Vagabond. See, every just because two words look together, it is not assured that they are related, right? But for a beginner, just try to look for words that are similar. What do you think vagant means? What does a vagabond do? Who is a vagabond? Tell me. I'll answer all your questions. Okay, I've seen your questions now, so I'll answer them. Yeah, it means to travel, right? A vagabond is someone who is often seen, like vagabond is a word often used interchangeably with tramp, right? A loiterer, or sometimes even a beggar, but it's not necessary, right? That everyone who is traveling aimlessly is a beggar. It's not necessary. So vagabond is anyone who just travels around all the time, right? They may be a rich person they may be a rich person who is just traveling around, right? So vagabond is someone who travels, right? Roam around, exactly. So what do you think? Now come, now put these two together. Now putting these two together is also not something that you can take for granted. Sometimes there are multiple ways to put them together, and you have to figure out which one it is from the context or even the cultural context. But right now it's very easy to see what is the meaning of vagabond. What is the meaning of solivagant? If solo or soul means alone, one, right, single, and vagant means to travel. So what is the meaning of solivagant? Anybody? I think it's very easy now to crack the meaning, right? Sorry, Vegan, anyone? Any guesses? Anything? Tell me. Just have to put these two together. You have on one hand Soli and on another you have Vagant. Now just put them together. What do you get? What do you think is the meaning of the word Soli Vagant? Yeah, someone who wanders alone, someone who travels alone, right? Exactly. So that's the meaning of Solivagan. Now you can answer your question. Proceed to answer your question, right? So if you get a word in GRE that you do not know, right, with a lot of words you'll be able to, not every word, but with a lot of words you'll be able to break them down and approximate the meaning. Maybe some at times you'll find the exact meaning, at other times you'll be able to approximate the meaning, right? So this is an approach that I use. Okay, and another important factor is this is how you use it in the exam, but this is also something that will accelerate your learning, systematize your learning of vocabulary, right? So don't read words randomly, read words that are similar. And another very important skill here is lateral thinking. Sometimes words are so far, like a connect might seem very far-fetched, right? For example, there is a very remote connect between the words grammar and glamour, right? Grammar and glamour, that is like a very distant connect, right? But I want you to go home and do some research, like look into the origin of grammar and look very far back, right? They may not be related in the first generation or second generation, they might not even share a common great grandfather, right? But they're like cousins who are thrice removed or something, right? So there is some connection between grammar and glamour. I'm not saying one word came from the other, that's not always true, right? So words may be related as parent, they might have a parent daughter relationship, they might have a sibling relationship, they might have a cousin relationship, right? So I want you to look for it, like what could be the relation between two very non-compatible seeming things, right? Grammar and glamour, right? Grammar is never glamorous, so what is the relation? The relation is truly magical, pun intended, right? So yeah, and another example, like let's take a word that I hope you do not know. No, I think this is a word that everyone knows, right? But you might be slightly confused with the meaning. So those of you who already know it, just try to understand the method, right? I could give a harder word, more difficult, tougher word to you, right? But I want to keep it close to the class average, what I tell you. So let's take a word that some of you definitely would know and some of you would not, right? Again, a common word, right? So this is the word, this is the good word, decimate, right? Now, with solivagant, what I was trying to illustrate was how, if you encounter this word and you have not already studied it, uh, in the exam, you can, in the real time, you can crack it live, right? But with decimate, my point is how you can remember stuff better, and to show you how delving deeper into a word, spending more time with a word is more beneficial than trying to use the same time to just touch multiple words, none of whom you remember, right? So better to remember 10 words better, correctly, firmly, rather than to touch upon 100 words and then retain nothing, right, at the end of the day. So decimate, right? Those of you who already know what it means, it's fine, right? And those of you who don't, let me tell you a story, right? So first, Decimate means to destroy something, right? Complete destruction, like obliterate something, right? Now I told you the meaning of decimate. How many days do you think you are going to remember this, that I told you that decimate means obliteration, destruction? How many days do you think you're going to remember this, and what is an approximate time that you think you'll forget it? For example, if 3 months down the line, if someone asks you, do you know what this word decimate means, or you encounter it somewhere, are you sure that you will be able to remember it just because I told you it means destruction? How many of you are confident that you'll remember it? And how many of you think that you'll forget it? Let me know. I told you the meaning, I told you the word. One word and meaning in exactly one word. Take care. I don't tell you a full sentence meaning. I just told you meaning as there's a synonym of destruction. There's a synonym of destroy. Right. Decimate is a synonym of destroy or obliterate. Right. As a verb. So you think you'll be able to retain this in your head? That okay. This connection between just two objects. Okay, sure. Yeah. So how many days do you think you will be able to retain this meaning? Right. So most of you, I think, within a week, right? Within a week, you'll likely forget it. Some of you might retain it for a month. Some of you even longer, right? But most of you will likely forget what I said right now. That decimate means to obliterate within 10 days, right? 10 to 15 days, right? And just remember that you are trying to memorize at least 10,000 such words, 10,000 such words, right? Right. So it's certainly going to be very tough, right? But let me do the other thing. So I gave you a little bit of information to remember. I just asked you remember this. Decimate means destroy. Very small piece of information, right? But the thing is, you know that decimate means destroy. You don't know why decimate means destroy, right? You don't know why it is. Maybe somewhere or the other you are thinking, okay, destroy also starts from D or the day sound, and decimate also starts from the D or day sound. So maybe they are related somehow. Now you don't know whether this relation is actually accurate, historically accurate or not. But it serves as a good memory aid, serves as a good mnemonic, right? But other than that, none of you would likely be able to see why does decimate mean destroy, right? Now let me tell you a story. So suppose you are in a hurry and trying to memorize a lot of words in a short span of time. You might think what I'm doing is foolish, right? I already have to learn 10,000 words. If I try to delve into the story of each of those 10,000 words, the history, right, it's going to be very boring. It's going to take a lot of time and it seems downright foolish, right? But that's not the thing, right? That's why I'm here to tell you, right? So the story is back in the olden days, like long back, 3,000 years ago, right? I'm not sure if it was the Roman army or the Greek army. I think it was the Roman army, if I'm not wrong, right? Both fought with phalanx structures. So Roman and Greek armies, they used to fight in units, right? They're very organized, very disciplined. They did not fight in a savage fashion, so to speak. They fought in very disciplined units with a high focus on defense and marching collectively, right? So we get the regiment structure or the troop structure primarily from Greek and Roman armies, which were very well strategized. They were the one of the first to have a proper war plan and move systematically, right? So what used to happen? Each regiment or each group of soldiers was in charge of a commander, right? Commander, not the overall commander, but commander, nothing, the overall general. So the commander of each of the regiments or each of the brigades, right? And should a brigade or a regiment fail in their mission, fail in a mission or fail in an expedition, fail in a conquest, right? Suppose they went to conquer a territory and came back home defeated, or suppose they ran away from a battlefield, right? Or they suffered too many losses, right? So what used to happen? Now these are people who are living very close together. They are comrades. They are living together. They are like brothers, right? In an army, because once you're assigned to a regiment, you're going to stay there for a very long time. So everyone there is family to you, right? They are the only persons that you'll be seeing for several months when you're away from your home. So when the troops came back defeated, Now think from a Roman administrator or a general's point of view, overall general, right? One of your troops has come, one of your regiments has come defeated. Now they are your own people. So if you punish them all by killing them, it's foolish, right? You're losing men, you're losing manpower, right? They came defeated, but they are still warriors, right? It was very difficult to train them and create them. So I'm not going to kill all of them. Otherwise, it's very foolish. But again, I need to punish them in order to set an example for others that you cannot simply laze off or you need to prove yourself every day. So there must be some element of fear. Yeah, I think it's back. Yeah, so as a general, I ask the regiment or the brigade which has failed in their mission, I ask them that, okay, kill 1/10 of your soldiers, right? So out of every 10 soldiers, kill one of them, right? And maybe I ask the one of the soldiers to do the same thing, right? Kill one out of every 10 of your soldiers. So I'm not suffering any major loss because I'm only suffering 1/10 of a loss, right? Out of 1,000 men, I'm losing 100. It's fair enough, right? And that is going to create a fear, instill a fear in the hearts of the other 900 in order to perform better and obey me in the future, right? Certainly a draconian step, but those were the days, right? And this is how the word decimate comes from. Now, the interesting part is that decimate has the word, just one second, I'll write it down for you. So, decimate as a word is decimate, right? And in your high school mathematics or even in your high school physics, you have learned the unit systems, right? How do they go? Milli, centi, deci, unit, deca, hecta, kilo, mega, and so on. Right. So deci is 1/10. Deca is 10, 10 times. Deci is 1/10, not 10 times. Right. 10 to the power minus 1. That's what deci is. So the interesting part is decimate means total destruction or unrelenting destruction. But decimate originally meant killing 1/10 of a troop, right? So that the morale of the other 900 is either lowered out of fear or rather raised out of fear, right? So this was a practice. Now that I've told you this very weird story, okay, now you're very, very unlikely to forget what decimate means, right? So I gave you a lot of information. I told you a story which many of you might have found interesting, many of you might have found very boring, right? I'm giving you a history lesson, right, about Roman and Greek times, which has nothing to do with your exam or with your current life, right? But the thing is, even if I bored you with this story, you'll certainly remember it, right? So, like, just remember what are the kinds of too strained, what I'll do, I'll just switch off my video so that I can ease the load on my bandwidth. Right. Okay. I hope that makes it better. So yeah. So the mistakes that you made in your school and the mistakes that you're embarrassed for, you definitely remember them, right? And a lot of things that you get right are things that you once got wrong, got corrected, often publicly, right? And then you remember that, okay, this was so embarrassing, it has got attached in my mind, right? So this is where the counterintuitive thing comes in. A lot of information is easier to remember than little bits of information if those little bits are not connected, and if that a lot of information is very well connected with each other, right? Like a tree, right? It contains all that branching and cross linking. So if you're learning words, if you learn its history, the history of a word, sure, you're going to take a lot of time to learn just one word. But yeah, then you're able to analyze, okay, this is the root of the word, and from this root, I can develop another, I can synthesize another 10 words, right? Further, you are going to be sure that that word is going to stay in your head. Now, for likely for all your life, you're never going to forget what decimate means, right? Because I've told you a very long story that you cannot forget, right? You'll not be able to forget the story, although you might be able to forget the word, and as soon as you recall the story, you'll get the word. Right. So this is for the vocabulary. I'll just wrap up in 5 minutes and then take your questions. Okay. So this is for the vocabulary part. No further deliberation, right? Right. Maybe if I have another session, I'll teach you some more vocabulary techniques. As for RCs, very quickly, remember, these RCs are not your school RCs where you are supposed to find the exact match from the passage. Far from it. In fact, the option which, I'm not always, but the option which often matches the passage, right, is often the wrong one, there to bait the people who go for such answers, right? So remember that with GRE, GMAT, or any exams that are conducted in the United States or the United Kingdom or Australia, the focus is on comprehension. You need to understand what the sentence means overall, interpret it, right? Don't try to compile it like a machine. Right, that okay, I'll take one word at a time and then find it in the option. No, you have to understand the meaning. Unless you're able to rephrase the sentence yourself, put it in your own words, often the options restate one of the ideas which are mentioned in the passage in different words. So don't try to find a word by word match. Try to find the meaning, right? A match of meaning, right? Try to find the essence of the sentence, right? Now, there are a lot of reading techniques that I can tell you, but in very brief, the only suggestion that I'll give you, whether you are reading for practice for the GRE, or whether you are reading a passage within the GRE during the exam, or even the GMAT or any other exam, TOEFL, IELTS, anything, focus on finding the answers to whys and hows, subjective details, ideas, process ideas. Even when you're practicing reading, when you're reading essays or articles for your practice, focus on whys and hows. Don't focus on what's, who's, when's, where's, and whom's. ठीक है? कौन, किसको, कब, कहाँ, इस पे ध्यान नहीं देना है, क्यों और कैसे पे ध्यान देना है. दिस इज वन टिप विच इज गोइंग टू हेल्प यू अलॉट. ठीक है. This is there for the English, for your verbal ability and verbal logic. A lot of things to say, but let's leave it here. And with your mathematics, with your quants, at least for the GRE, quants are going to be a breeze as long as you are very solid with your concepts, right? Data sufficiency is a very important skill, right? Often there will be questions that will ask you to tell what is required to answer this question. They will not ask you to solve the questions. You have to optimize your approach there, right? And with learning grammar or vocabulary, the
Hello.
right, yeah. So there's a thunderstorm here, so there are network issues, I guess.
Hello. Excuse me, sir. Sir.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah. Now you are audible, sir.
Okay.
Can we now?
Sure, sure. Please go ahead with the question and answers.
Uh,
Yeah.
thank. Yeah. Thank you for such an informative session, sir. That was very. That was extremely informative. Now let's move on to the question and answer session. So
Sure.
we'll just pin the question. Yeah. That's the first question.
Sure, sure. So you're preparing for GRE and you want to do your MS in CS. Okay, okay. No, it won't be an obstacle. See, everything lies in your SOP. Don't treat your SOP as something that is a necessity या बस करके देना है. SOP is how you are making yourself stand out in the eyes of the university. It is your USP. Your SOP is your USP. Why you are unique as a candidate. You might have good scores, you might be from an IIT, you might be from one of the best colleges in India in your department, in your branch, right? But at any day there will be 1,000 people like you, and why should a university take you, right? So that is how you convey, that is what you convey with your SOP. Your SOP should unite everything in your profile, from your scores to your, from your academic background to your scores to your co-curriculars, everything in one thread of continuum. So SOP is something that where you can be subjective. You cannot be subjective with your GRE. You can GRE score is a GRE score. You cannot tell that okay, that day I had not slept well, so I underperformed or I misread a question or I misread a topic. SOP is something that I think I have changed my internet, so I hope this is better. Although there's a thunderstorm, like I cannot be sure of. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. So what I was saying is, in your SOP, in your write up, basically, even if you don't have to submit a proper SOP, in your write up, make sure to make it very clear, right? Why you are taking this decision. Why did you not take this decision in your class 12? Maybe due to lack of information, peer pressure, whatever it is. Be sincere, right? Be confident and do appear very informed and motivated, right? You can write obviously one or two lines which are common with everyone. Just upload likhte hain that I am interested in CSE, like, but that is not going to suffice, right? Something specific and unique to you, which ties it very well with your background. That okay, my there was family pressure, or in India there is a lot of this and that, or to settle for a branch, or I could not take a year drop, or maybe in my curriculum I was not so well informed. At college I encountered a club, right, an electronics club, or programming club, or anything like that, right, any society related to computing, and there I developed an interest in computing. Or when I was working at the intersection of electrical engineering and computing, or electronic engineering and computing, I realized that okay, computing is my true calling, or I can transfer my skills that I have acquired from electrical engineering proactively to computing, or something interdisciplinary between CSE and ECE, for which I need CSE knowledge, right? Or because maybe electronics is gradually transitioning to microelectronics and uh, integration and all that, right? Digital electronics. So just justify what you are saying with your knowledge and with your intention. Make it very clear that you are unique. Why you are making this transition. So if you can justify it in your write up and SOP, right? Uh, it's all good. There's no problem in changing your branch. A lot of people do that. And it's more common in the West. It's a more flexible process in the West than in India, right? So be rest assured, it won't be an obstacle in getting an admit, right? All the best. And if you have any other questions, I'm ready to answer them. Okay.
Yeah, sir. Uh, this is the next
How
question.
long? Yeah, how long should I study for the GRE? Again, a very subjective question. See, the majority of your time for preparation should and will ideally go in reading. Read, simply read. Read as diverse as possible. Don't read random stuff, right? Do read semi-academic essays. Like, don't read anything written. Read things written for popular people. Like, read things that are written for people, right? Not average, the average person. But don't read I mean gossip, or don't read stuff like that. Read essays read semi-technical information. Don't read too technical. Don't read a journal on maybe microelectronics, right? We are not talking of scientific journals. We are not reading scientific journals. On the other hand, we are not reading leisure magazines or comics either, right? Hit that sweet spot in the middle, right? Like popular science. So go for some, like, on any day I would prefer to read, if I'm preparing for the GRE, I would prefer to read Scientific American, right, rather than read maybe the science section of Times of India, right? Scientific American would always be something closer to where a GRE question setter would pick the text from, right? So do read. That is very important. If you read, your grammar and your vocabulary will automatically develop sooner than you realize, right? And exactly the kind that you need, right? So reading is very important, right? You might seem that there is no connection, there are no questions coming from reading, but trust me, reading is a very, very, very important skill, right? So do that, okay? And with QA, right? Indian students are already pretty good at QA, right? Focus on speed, focus on conceptual foundations, right? Do revise theory. Sometimes things can be very deceptive. You might think that I know linear equations very well, but there might come a question which won't ask you to solve a linear equation. It will ask you which two things are needed to solve a linear equation. And under the pressure and time constraint of the exam, you might end up making errors that you will regret. You might never think that I'll get this question wrong because you have solved questions tougher than this in your board exams, right? India's mathematics education is above par that of the US, especially like CBSE education, right? But trust me, time is a very compelling force. So do practice a bit for QA, speed practice, and revisit, brush up, those textbooks from class 9 and 10. That will suffice. For QA, you don't need to work very hard. For English, it's going to be a long haul. I suggest that again depends on your current level of proficiency in English. But for the average student, I think that 3 months of intensive study and 6 months of relaxed study are sufficient for the GRE. Right? I did not prepare anything at all. I just gave it for fun. So I don't have any personal experience to share. Right? I was feeling bored, so I gave the GRE. But on a very serious note, for students, or actually, if you want to actually prepare and you do not feel already very confident, 6 months is a good span of time, in my opinion. Right? Do read a lot. Read wide and diverse. Don't only read things that you find are interesting or what. Like, for example, you might have an interest in gadgets and you're only reading about gadgets. That won't do. Read everything, politics, and because passage is going to be diverse, right? And you both need you need both familiarity as well as interest in reading everything. So that should certainly be there, right? Read, and grammar and vocabulary will automatically follow. Don't take any custom measures for vocabulary or grammar, right? That's that. All the best. A few hours every day would be sufficient, right?
Yeah, so
Few
this
hours.
is the next question.
Yeah. Next question, please. Finding profs to partner with for niche research topics. Yes, email. I'm very familiar with this, right? So I already have an answer for your question. Email professor specifically, and don't send the same email to everyone. जब तुम एक ही email सबको भेजते हो तो वो समझ में आ जाता है कि एक ही email सबको भेजा हुआ है. Create a story. Tell the professor that you read their research, you read their books. Have some element of personalization to it ताकि professor को भी लगे कि तुमने specific attention दिया है, उनका paper पढ़ा है properly. Not just that I have heard you are one of the biggest names in this field, so I want to work under you. No, I read your research. I find this topic, be as specific as possible so that they know that you have actually read their thing. जितना technical, जितना specific जाओगे, they will prefer it. That you actually know your stuff, right? यहाँ पे उल्टा advice है. Be more specific. ठीक है? And right, UX design में जैसे also share a project of yours with them, right? That always works, right? So अपना कुछ share करो, उनका कुछ share करो. That is what Benjamin Franklin suggested long ago, right? When you want to make friends or make contacts with people, do read their books and do share your books with them, your writing with them. That is something that creates a very close personal attachment and increases your chance of landing something. Yeah. All the best. Next question. Email each professor individually. Okay. Yeah. I want, okay, pursue a job after giving GATE, and then you want to take the GRE after an year or two to pursue masters abroad. Is this a good plan? That's fine. See, in the West, see, the focus of any application in modern education in any of the top universities of the world is to tell your story. Your story should be unique. And I find it to be a very unique story. See, they don't have any major age criteria there out there. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे rat race वाला system नहीं है. So even if you work at a PSU for 5 years, 10 years, and then suddenly you want to go for academia, it's completely fine. You just need to convey your unique story very well to them. that should seem coherent. ऐसा नहीं कि एक बार तुम बोलो I wanted to earn money और दूसरे बार अचानक I have interest in studying. ऐसा नहीं होता, right? It should be very coherent, it should be very continuous. ठीक है. You can obviously do that. You can pursue a job in any PSU, get financial security, right? Stability after giving the GATE exam, okay, and then you can take the GRE after a year or two and pursue masters abroad. Yes, I know people who have done this. It's very common. Don't worry about age or other factors. Like, it doesn't matter there. It's a very egalitarian environment. This is a good plan. Perfect. But yes, do make sure that you have the means and resources, and you'll have the motivation then and the capacity. Do keep in mind foresight, plan ahead, and everything lies in how you prepare your profile and your write-ups. That is very important. Right. You should have a unique story to tell at the end of the day. That this was my career line, and I was working towards a long-term goal. It was all well planned, and I'm not a product of only my circumstances, but also my decisions. So that is very important. So yeah, not a problem. Next question. Grade GRE score compensate for an average college percentage. Yeah, 7.5 is good. It's fine. Not at all a problem. Yes, it does. See, they're not writing a polynomial जहाँ पे coefficient fixed है. Class 10 का marks को 7.5 से multiply करके, फिर college का marks को 10 से multiply करके, 12 का marks को 4 से multiply. They're not multiplying factors. They view your profile as a whole. Even IMs, because they're following this modern educational philosophy. In modern educational philosophy, your profile is viewed as a whole. ठीक है, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि 7.5 GPA का कुछ वेटेज होगा. Get that weightage thing out of your head. ठीक है, कट ऑफ्स बेसिक हो सकते हैं कि इससे कम टॉफल स्कोर पे नहीं लेंगे, बट ऐसा नहीं है कि समवन हु हैज अ टॉफल स्कोर ऑफ 10 हैज ट्वाइस 10 बोल रहा हूँ, समवन हु हैज अ टॉफल स्कोर ऑफ 9 हैज एग्जैक्टली 50% more chance than someone who has a TOEFL score of 6. ठीक है, nothing like that. So you have to create things as a whole. You cannot view their parts individually. That college GPA itna hai, ye itna hai. They cannot be viewed in isolation. They'll tell the entire story. If you can say why your GPA is low or why your GPA is average and why it doesn't matter. Maybe at your college there was absolute grading, relative grading. Maybe even after having 7.5 GPA you are the topper, or maybe some other reason, some misevaluation, college checking system was not that good. कुछ भी हो सकता है ना. Just convey things very well. As long as you appear sincere, coherent and motivated, they will take you. And 7.5, again, even on an absolute note, it's decent. Good. Never a problem. Okay, yeah, do get a good GRE score. That's it. All the best. Next. Software engineer or developer in US or in Europe? What I need to do. Okay. So if you want to work as a software engineer in the US or in Europe, you really don't need to do anything. Like, see, अगर तुम इंडिया में कोई कंपनी ज्वाइन करते हो और उनका वो तुमको ट्रांसफर कर देते हैं उनके यूएस या यूरोप डिवीजन में, इट्स फाइन. हमेशा होता है. लॉट ऑफ माय फ्रेंड्स they did not know that they were going to the US. उनकी कंपनी ने उनको जबरदस्ती यूएस भेज दिया. ऐसा भी होता है. Join an IT company which you know has a branch in US and you'll get there. 5 or 10 years down the line you'll get there. But हाँ, अगर तुमको US में ही directly join करना है, like for example, if you want to join company X USA instead of company X's branch in India which transfers you to company X's branch in USA, तुम direct company X's branch in USA में apply करना चाहते हो, maybe it is a consultancy or a software company, जो भी हो, what you need to do is if you are going to the USA, you need to prove your English language proficiency. चाहे तुम किसी भी रीजन से जाओ, पढ़ने जा रहे हो, जॉब करने जा रहे हो, for whatever reason you are going, right? You need to take the TOEFL or IELTS. both. गवर्नमेंट का सिस्टम है, कभी कभी कंपनी का सिस्टम है, कभी कभी यूनिवर्सिटी का सिस्टम है. दैट इज अ सेपरेट इशू. English language proficiency is a separate issue, whether it's from the government side or from the college institution side. But if you want to go through the academic route, right, you can obviously take the GATE or you can obviously take the GMAT or GRE, go for an MS, and after your MS from your university join a firm. But why would you rather take an MS or right? वो इतना क्यों करोगे? अगर तुमको सिर्फ काम करना है यूएस में, then you don't need to take any exam as such. Just join a company. किसी का भी recruitment में apply करो and join them. Right? You can even mail companies. Right? A lot of companies today, like पिछले 2-3 साल में, they have opened up globally, and you need not go through a campus recruitment process. तुम simply email करो. If you have something unique, they'll take you. You have LinkedIn. You have your email account, that is more than sufficient. Contact their hiring managers in the US, right? Or join a firm in India. Learn if they have a transfer policy. या वहाँ teams के बीच exchange होता है. you will end up in the US. You don't need to give any exam. Don't need to take any exam for it. Definitely not the GRE or GMAT. जरूरत नहीं है बिल्कुल भी. Right. But if you want to do an MBA in the US, and वहाँ से बहुत आसान है किसी कंपनी को ज्वाइन करना, वहाँ के यूनिवर्सिटी से MBA करके go for the GMAT, go for an MBA. Simple. ठीक है, GMAT देना होगा फिर. ठीक है. I hope that helps. Next question.
Hello.
Yeah, Pratik, yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. All of the questions, sir. That's the end of it. So thank you so much, sir, for this informative session. I'm sure it must have inspired a lot of aspirants to work into the right direction. And sir, any closing comments or remarks that you would like to provide?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Any final tips?
It was a pleasure to interact with all of you. Just a few closing remarks. Just 5 more minutes of your time. So when we talk of our career plan, see, everything at the end of the day is how is your life's journey, right? That is what universities look for. Make yourself unique. Be your own brand, right? Create yourself in a unique profile. Make sure that you don't need to make sure that very cynically, right? But and you don't need to try very artificially for the sake of it to be so, but try to be unique, right? Be unique, be an intersection of various things that very few people in the world are, right? तो ऐसा नहीं है, don't try to go for research की companies कैसा mold prefer करते हैं, companies कैसा typecast prefer करते हैं. Nowadays the focus is on diversity, and you cannot fake diversity. You have your interests, you want to play the guitar as well as you want to code, right? So do both of the things, right? Increasingly companies are focusing on how diverse you are as an individual. They are not only concerned about how good a coder you are or what is your academic and technical profile. They're also interested in your hobbies, in your interests, right? So be diverse, right? And even with your hobbies, don't treat them very casually. Otherwise people, like, the viewpoint is that hobby hai to zyada time nahi denge. Then again, that will not benefit you at the time of admissions. People say that okay, you always played it safe. You did not. It was not truly a passion of yours if you did not give it enough time. So अगर तुम गिटार बस ऐसे casually बजाते हो, you cannot quote it, right? But yeah, if even after working a 9 to 5 job, if you have a band of your own which performs in music festivals on Sundays or on vacations, then you are a hot candidate for any university, any top university, right? That okay, this person manages their time well, and they have done something other than their job, and they're accomplished in it. They're not someone who just plays guitars and picnics, but they have a band of their own, right? So that is the sort of thing. So make yourself unique, be your own brand, be an intersection or overlap of variety of different things, right? And tell your story, tell your unique story, including your privileges or lack thereof, or any interest that you have, your social circumstances, your suffering, your successes, your struggles. Make sure to document them very well. Don't be pretentious, right? But definitely be very vocal. जो है clearly बोल दो, right? That is that. And other than that, for GRE, that's the very basic aptitude. Be thorough with your aptitude. थोड़ा सा comprehension is better than a lot of memorization, right? Even if you are able to cover a small number of topics, make sure you cover them well rather than cover too much. Okay. On GRE and GRE and GMAT, these exams are not about academic depth, but they are about conceptual depth, definitely. Okay. So do understand things that you study very well. Okay. Right. Work in breadth, be versatile, be diverse, right? And in case of any discrepancies, any issues, feel free to reach out. Okay. That's it. That's it from my side. Thank you. It was a very pleasant session. I look forward to interacting with you again, perhaps sometime in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining this amazing webinar. I guess it was informative. Learned a lot from it. The link for a, uh, a link has been uploaded in the comment section. Please fill up those forms and you will get your respective certifications on your email addresses. Thank you so much. Signing off, IEEE MAIT.